Jodi Holliday, thank you so much for being a guest on the Fact Up podcast. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you for having me.
You are a travel influencer and brand advocate specialist at Tourism Saskatchewan. You're very good at doing both, but just in case people have no idea what that means, please explain.
Well, you can just call me a travel media specialist.
Okay?
That's a shortened version. Yeah, my title was just kind of a working title, and they forgot to change it. So travel media specialist kind of covers it.
Okay. So what does that entail for people who are just, tuning in? What does that entail exactly? What do? You filter out the people that you don't want in your province?
Yeah, pretty much. No, so I work with travel writers like you, and now travel writers can be anything, right? It used to be traditional travel writers for magazines or newspapers. Now it includes influencers or Instagrammers or bloggers, all sorts of media. So that's why the travel media is kind of like a catch-all term. So I bring travel media into the province and I show them how amazing Saskatchewan is, and then they go home and write about it, or share all of their stories and photographs about how amazing Saskatchewan is, and that makes people want to come here.
I tell people quite a bit that Saskatchewan has been on my travel radar for years.
Excellent.
And the constant response, the consistent response I always get is this look, and the question of why Saskatchewan.
Yeah,
You're out to prove that Saskatchewan isn't flat, right?
that's true.
Um,
There's a very flat part right where the Trans-Canada Highway is, and that's where everyone drives right through, and that is the best place to build a highway is on the flat part. So
right.
that's what everyone thinks. Saskatchewan is flat and boring because they've just driven through on the number one. So
Right. And again, that goes into I guess it's part of the individual. If you're willing to go off the highway and take an off ramp,
yes.
and you're not just looking at a straightaway, and you've got the tunnel vision, and this is destination as opposed to the journey, you can easily overlook a lot of the beauty that Saskatchewan has to offer. Um,
Absolutely.
and I always used to associate it with fields of grain. Obviously it's flat. The idea is go from Ontario to Alberta because there's nothing in the middle, right? um, but color plays a super prominent role throughout Saskatchewan. Like, for example, are the northern lights really brighter there? Are the
Yeah.
clay canyons that bold? Are your 100,000 lakes and rivers as blue and clean as they say they are? And are the
Yes.
purple sand beaches really that purple?
Oh, yes. I've actually never seen the purple sand beaches.
Right? You should go to Saskatchewan.
I know. Well, the purple sand beaches, apparently they don't happen every year, and sometimes you have to kind of look for them, and so I've heard they're amazing when you can see them. The northern lights are obviously fantastic. There's been years when I've been in my backyard in Regina and you can see them. So, obviously they're way better up north where there's no light pollution, but they're amazing. One of the most amazing places is when I go out to La Ronge and Mississippi area, like where the Churchill River is, and seeing the northern lights up there is absolutely stunning. It's great.
Saskatchewan is also loaded with a lot of graceful landscapes, living skies, as it's well known in Saskatchewan, living skies.
On
Plenty of
our license
places.
plate, land of the living skies.
That's exactly it. Plenty of places to find your version of peace.
Hmm.
The sand dunes, largest active sand dunes in the country, by the way, for those who don't know. People are finding their peace these days, but during normal times. But where do you go to get away from the routine generally, and where have you found yourself going more and more these days during the pandemic?
Well, I just go to my basement during the pandemic.
Awesome.
That's my peaceful place. It's down
Right.
here with all my records, and you can't see, but on the other side is my bar.
Right.
So that's my peaceful place.
Right.
Um, but I know, like Saskatchewan, I think once this pandemic is over, Saskatchewan is going to be a great place to go because there's not a lot of people here. We're known for our wide open spaces. You know, we're about the size of Texas, but we only have 1.2 million people here. So it is going to be a great place to get away and not see people. I think we're going to come out of this and have like, there's going to be like a big sense of agoraphobia and, you know, a fear of other people. And so this is a great place to go to get away from people.
Right.
I like to go north or south. I'm kind of in the south, but you know, I can go farther south. Grasslands National Park is one of my favorite places to go. The East Block usually only gets a few thousand visitors a year, so it's definitely a place to get away. It's the darkest dark sky preserve in Canada. You're going to see amazing stars at night. It is so beautiful down there. It is so quiet. One of the quietest places on earth. It is just amazing down there. You can sit by the campfire with Brenda Peterson, who works there, and she'll play her banjo and make you some bannock. It's just one of those amazing places to go. Anywhere north, Prince Albert National Park is our other national park. North of the park as well, like it's a whole other world up there. You're hitting boreal forest by that time. It's definitely not flat up there. It's all lakes, rock, trees. It's amazing. You'll see lots of wildlife up there. You'll see elk, you'll see moose, you'll see bears. Oh, it's just amazing. So
Yeah.
lots of water. You like get on the lake, get on rivers, like anything, get away from people.
That's exactly it. If you want physical distancing beyond the physical distancing that we're in
Yes.
right now, you can find it in Saskatchewan.
Yes.
I'll give you an example. So when I go to certain places in the world, I feel as if I cannot speak. Like I feel something that's tangible, but I can't explain it. In your kind of point of view, because you are a local and because you are, you know, in Saskatchewan all the time, inspirational points and places in Saskatchewan that kind of go between the lines where you don't find them in the guidebooks
Mhm.
or in kind of a blogger's travel note or a vlog, inspirational points that people potentially could feel something but can't explain why.
I like,
Loaded question, I know. Loaded.
yeah. I mean, a lot of our province, a lot of the, it's just that it's the outdoors. There's so many special places here, and everyone has their own places. But aside from like our natural beauty, like I said, like the East Block of Grasslands is a special place in my heart. But it's the people here. Like you can't go to the East Block of Grasslands without coming into contact with Brenda Peterson. Like she's an amazing, like you, if you go into the visitor center there, it like half of the stuff there is it like, it's like going into her own house. Like it's all stuff from her land. Like, you know, it's just, you're in her living room essentially. Right. And like I've been, you know, obviously I'm not doing my regular job right now because at this point of the year, I would be planning all of these amazing trips around Saskatchewan and to other places. And so I'm not doing that right now. Right now, I'm reaching out to our wonderful industry in Saskatchewan and seeing how they're doing. And I was talking to Carlo Gambattista this morning. He has run the Italian Star Deli in Regina for years. His parents came over from Italy, and I think they opened it up sometime in the early 60s, and they've been running this deli for like that long, and now Carlo's kids are taking over. But talking to Carlo just about, you know, him making these sandwiches and selling all these amazing meats and cheeses, and he's one of those guys that, you know, he's part of the community, and you know, he's just selling meat and cheese. You can buy meat and cheese anywhere, but because you just feel like when you walk in there, again, you're in his living room, but he's selling meat and cheese. You know, he's part of the community, and he knows everybody's name when you walk in. And we had a big chat about the Tiger King, you know, because everyone's
Right.
watching that, right? But
Right.
a few years back, he used to have a mullet. When
Okay.
he cut his mullet, he was on the CBC News because of it, because everybody knows Carlo and everybody knows that he has a mullet. Like these are the people that we have in Saskatchewan. Like everybody knows who they are. And they're not just a business. They're, you know, they're a place that you go because of the people. So there's all sorts of hidden gems. Like, you know, I live in Regina, so I know all the Regina people. I'm starting to get to know more of the Saskatoon people just because of the nature of my job. But, you know, when I travel, those are the things that I look for, right? Like, I reach out to people in other cities and I'm like, where do you go? You know, like, I reach out to the locals there and I'm like, what should I know about this place? And often it's the places where you go eat. It's the places where you go drink, you know. I'm kind of a city gal, so the nature places are great and I love those in Saskatchewan, but it's the people, it's the food. You know.
Hmm.
I know you know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about, which leads to my next question. Like the impression that I get from the middle of the country and the East Coast, but we'll talk about the middle of the country, is a group of people who support each other, especially when times are
Hmm.
super tough.
Yeah.
What have you seen besides? I mean, what you just described was amazing. What else have you seen from the community that kind of ignites that faith and hope within Regina, within the province itself? Other examples that you can name?
Oh, there's so many. I just see so many people coming together. A friend of mine, Xenophon Gargasitas, he makes pizzas out of his house. Really delicious high-end pizzas. He can't do that right now, so he's making food to give away to shelters, to frontline workers. He's got a group of 4 or 5 people there, all getting together and just making food. Loblaws is giving them all of the supplies they need. They're also getting donations from friends and families and strangers. So he used to run this pizza place, like, it was called Artisan Pizza, and they're just doing it for love and for community. And, you know, like, you know, they're just doing amazing things. I think they just dropped off a big load of sandwiches and packages to Carmichael Outreach, and, you know, like, all of these amazing things that people are doing. You know, everyone across the country are making masks, you know,
Hmm.
for frontline workers and everything. Like, it's, you know, the hand sanitizer, like, you know, these are Canadian stories as well, but, you know, it's happening here. I know Milton Rebello from Sky Cafe and Bistro, uh, their restaurant closed down, and, you know, they're probably in a better place financially than some other restaurants. And he has a lot of older ladies that go there for lunch all the time, and so he just put together some packages and dropped them off at their houses. And the ladies were like, well, how do we pay you? And he's like, you know, you've already paid for these, you know, you come in all the time. And so, you know, he's taking care of his customers out of his own pocket. And, you know, there's just stories like that all over the place. And it's just, it's amazing to me that we have so many amazing people like that, that even in a time where, you know, they might not be making any money, they're still reaching out and helping their community. So,
And
sorry.
and I have that effect on people. These questions are
You're like
designed.
a Barbara Walters here.
I love that. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. It's
Yeah.
it's people helping people.
Yeah.
And since I've restarted this podcast, that's a beautiful theme that's been kind of
Hmm.
running through everything. It's
Yeah.
people foregoing a payment. It's people drastically discounting. It's supermarkets coming in and saving the day,
Yeah.
supplying things. So I always feel that is really the soul of the community. It's not so much the dish, but it's who's making the dish. It's the
Absolutely.
behind the dish. It's the community coming together.
Yeah, like my friend Mark Heisey, he owns Rebellion Brewery in Regina, and you know, they're a big brewery. They have big trucks, so they went to the YWCA, I think.
Hmm.
They were helping them move furniture to set up. Oh, I can't remember what it was, but, like, they're just helping out in the community. They're doing whatever they can because they have big trucks to help people move things. And, you know, they're doing everything they can for the community. I know one of their taproom manager shaved her head to raise money for mental health awareness. And, you know, like, they're just doing everything, like, including, like, shaving their heads.
Right, right.
Anything they can do. So yeah, and Mark, I know, has been running ragged, just doing anything he can just to help out whoever needs it, right? So
Is this out of the ordinary for Saskatchewan, or is this a pretty common theme generally?
I don't I I don't think it is very out of the ordinary. I think that is an extraordinary time, so we're seeing more of it. But I think it's very indicative of who we are as a people. We're, you know, we're a very small community, and you know, ultimately, like Saskatchewan was a farming community when we started, and this is kind of what you do. You just help your neighbor, right?
You mentioned Grasslands National Park a few minutes ago. Saskatoon, for example, was named, I think it was 3 years ago, 2017, as one of the top destinations. Grasslands is still one of these amazing places that sees, let's say, far fewer visitors than your Banffs of the world. Are you feeling that when this is all said and done, the staycation takes precedence over the international flight, potentially the cruise, the even crossing the border into the US? Do you think, kind of moving forward, what does the travel kind of scene look like in Canada, specifically Saskatchewan?
Well, I think always our number one, like the people that are in our parks, like our provincial parks and our national parks, number one are our own people. Number two, our neighbors to the west, Alberta. So those are kind of our big, like our big markets, the people that are traveling in Saskatchewan as it is, regardless of what's going on in the world. So those are kind of our what we'll continue to market towards. But US has always been a big market, particularly for our fishing and hunting. We have great fishing up north, all over the province. So, but I don't know what that will look like in the face of COVID-19 with the US and what's happening there right now. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. But for our Saskatchewan people, I think that we'll see a lot of people just sticking around home a bit. I think that this is going to have an economic impact on everybody, and I don't think vacation will be top of the list,
Right.
unfortunately. But we have amazing parks and lakes and all sorts of places for people to check out. And it's funny because a lot of people in Saskatchewan don't travel in their own province. We have a lot of people that do, but there's a lot of people that just, oh, well, a vacation has to be away. Well, maybe they'll stay home and check out what's right in their backyard. So we're Canadian. We like a good old fashioned road trip.
I live for the road trip.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up, I grew up in Saskatchewan. We would hop in a car and drive to Edmonton or Calgary or Winnipeg for a weekend. And, it's funny when I talk to people outside of Canada, they think that's crazy, to drive 7 hours just for a weekend. I'm like, that's nothing. It's
Right.
Edmonton. It's nothing.
Right. Right.
Right.
Exactly.
So we would drive there for a concert and, 2 days later drive back. It's, so that might be a bigger draw. People might just be hopping in their cars and exploring a bit more. So that would be great. We're a close drive to a lot of places. So that would be great for us. I think probably just the nature of what's happened to to flights. I think that they will have to offer cheaper flights right off the bat because no one's going to have the money to, make these long distance flights. And we'll have, I think it's just going to change the nature of travel. Who knows? Like, that's $1 million question,
Yeah.
how we're going to come out of this, right?
Well, when things get back to normal, it's going to be the new normal. I really encourage people to, and even encourage myself to go to Saskatchewan.
Absolutely. Well, you were supposed to come this year.
I know,
That
and
was going to be
believe me,
great.
man. It's if it's not on your travel radar, it should be on your travel radar. If you don't feel like spending the money to go to Europe or the US, there are plenty of places in Canada. Saskatchewan, please don't overlook the heartland. That's where the gold is. And it's not just the golden fields, but it is, you know, veering off the beaten path and exploring the not so hidden gems that the province has to offer,
Absolutely.
right? My final question for you, Jodi, is where does your soul live? And it doesn't have to be in Saskatchewan. Where have you been on the planet that's taken your breath away?
Oh,
Loaded questions. That's what I do.
that's a tough one. That's a real tough one. Um, wow. Oh, you're gonna have to edit all this humming and hawing.
That's okay.
Um, there, oh, wow. Uh, gra- Grasslands, grasslands.
Grasslands.
It like it every time I go there. Although I'm sad to say I've never been there with my husband. Um, but we were supposed to go this past year, and for whatever reason our trip got canceled. But um, he needs to go there with me because it's just one of those magical places, and I love taking travel writers there because they shut up when they're there.
That's what you need us to do. You need us to shut up.
Oh, it's just a magical place. Like the sun sets there, and you get the first time I went there, overlooking Frenchman River Valley, I saw a herd of like a couple hundred bison. Like it's just, and they have prairie dogs, like a little prairie dog colony. You can hear them squeaking, and oh, that's where my heart lives. Oh, it's just amazing.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. Jodi Holliday, thank you so much for joining me on the Fact Up podcast. It is always a pleasure. It is a privilege to speak to you. Thank you for taking the time.
Well, I can't wait to get you to Saskatchewan.
I can't wait to land, and I can't wait to breathe it and see it and feel it. Definitely. Jodi Holliday, Tourism Saskatchewan, thank you so much. Stay healthy, and we will chat super soon, hopefully sooner than later.
All right, thanks.
Ciao.
Bye.